I'm Professor Billy Coop, and I serve as the academic director on the international program at Business School Netherlands. My role essentially focuses in two primary areas. One is coaching, online coaching of MBA students from all around the world. And secondly, I am very involved in supervising of dissertations. At the end of their study, when they submit their dissertation, I would be very involved in the proposal initially, in approving proposals, and then secondly in supervising students, again, from all around the world. Right at the outset, let me just say that there are many definitions of action learning and variations of action learning, but essentially, action learning is a problem-solving methodology that focuses on a small group of people working on a problem. It could be a problem by the group that the group wants to resolve. It could be a problem that an individual brings to the group to help that individual solve, preferably using a diverse group of individuals, because in that way you get different perspectives. And I think that's one of the beauties of action learning, is to get these different ideas and thoughts and perspectives on the particular problem by simply asking questions. So action learning is very driven by questions. And the deeper and more insightful the question is, the more knowledge is gained. So while the focus is on solving the problem, it's also on the group members growing in their own learning and development as a result of this particular process. So it's simple, but it's very complex as you get deeper into the problem itself. It's been around for a long time. I think the father of action learning would probably be Reg Revens, who was an engineer. And he just discovered one day while sitting in, I think it was in a lunch meeting in a hospital, how people discussed their problems and how others asked questions. And in so doing, generated options which the owner of the problem could then take away and apply. So action learning is very much applied learning and growth and development. I think the primary benefit is the fact that students work on real problems within their own organization. I think that's one of the most important issues. And this is different from many other business schools that use case study methodology, which is still a very good teaching methodology. But at Business School Netherlands, our students have to apply their minds to their own organization. They have to identify real problems within a specific discipline in their own organizations. They then have to go and research it themselves, which requires them to reading literature, to give background as part of the research process, conducting research on their own, designing questionnaires, focus groups, whatever it might be, and then ultimately generating a range of options once they've conducted their research and selecting the option that would be the most appropriate solution to that given problem, and then actually going and creating an implementation plan. So it's very much focused on applied learning and practical application of a problem that they've identified. It's used in a couple of ways. One is, first of all, to gain insight into the theoretical side of action learning. Students are required to undertake a project in which they do a literature review on action learning. They also look at how it compares with another element of similar type of learning called action research. But they are then given projects. They have to identify problems within their own organization. With doing that, one of the benefits that they derive is formulating a small group within their own organization when they might be addressing, for example, a marketing-related problem or a strategic management problem. So at the same time, they are learning, and the group itself is learning. And then the final element of action learning where it's applied is when they do their dissertation. And the dissertation is a much deeper study where they have to identify a strategic problem within their organization. And then they go through the same process. So they are benefiting from learning and development. The groups that they work with in their own organization are also benefiting. And of course, the organization benefits when they find a solution to the problem. The board members, for example, might not always accept what has been given, so it could be partially implemented or it could be fully implemented. But there's a significant benefit that is derived by both the MBA student and by the organization. Companies that have used action learning include companies like General Electric. Many big corporate companies use action learning in different ways. With the changes that we've experienced in recent years as well, it's something that can be done online, as we've been faced with the pandemic. So you don't necessarily have to meet face-to-face. So virtual action learning has now become something that is being utilized by many of these big corporate companies. But it's used across the board throughout the world in different variations. There's so many. I get so passionate about this because I see these tangible benefits that are derived from this. But certainly one that comes to mind was one of the MBA students doing their dissertation, and the student worked on, the company had a number of farms, and one of these farms was coming to its end of life. They grew flowers and they used to export. And this particular student undertook the study as to what to do with this farm, and did a really in-depth study which involved all the financial elements of analyzing, and ultimately came up with a proposal that was submitted to the board of the organization, who accepted his proposal and actually used $5 million to implement the proposal that he had submitted based on his studies. And there's many examples of this type of solution and benefit to the organization. I think action learning consulting, normally the consultant gets involved, gathers evidence in a very similar way to what one would do in action learning, but there is normally a prescription which says that this is what you must do. Action learning uses the collective wisdom of everybody that has been involved. So there's input from everybody. It's a non-threatening methodology because of the fact that you use trust as the basis for the discussions. It's not about egos or wanting to be better than somebody else. It's this collective whole with the objective of solving a very real problem, but collectively. And the other difference is that the individuals that are involved in the project learn from each other, and you learn to improve your questioning process, your critical thinking skills. There's a significant number of benefits that are derived from this process. I think what really excites me is that because of the fact that it's driven by questions and the level, the quality of the questions, it also helps with the individual's mindset and improves their mindset through the skill of asking questions. So overall, there is so much benefit that can be derived when it's applied correctly. So I get very passionate about it because it helps people to understand, not to simply accept the first solution that's presented. Because this often happens in corporate companies where there's a problem and the senior management team or the MD of the company might say, this is the solution, go and implement it. While that might be correct, it might not necessarily be the optimum solution to that particular problem. And hence, gaining insight from different perspectives often results in a vastly improved solution.